In the heart of New York City, over a century ago, flames rose into the night sky. A factory filled with young women, some no older than 16, was burning floor by floor. People in the streets screamed. Firemen shouted orders. Windows burst open as terrified girls searched for escape that didn't exist. And in the smoke-filled chaos of that night stood a woman whose life was about to change forever. Her name was Frances Perkins. And this is the story of how she changed the world for every burning girl who had no voice. Frances wasn't born a hero. She was simply a curious child who always asked one question: why? Why do some people suffer while others live comfortably? Why do some work endlessly and still starve? Why do tragedies happen, and who is responsible? Her father encouraged her curiosity, telling her that learning wasn't just for her, but for the world she would someday serve. Years later, as a college student, Frances visited a textile factory for the first time. What she saw shook her: young girls bent over sewing machines, breathing dust-filled air, exhausted, pale, and silent. Something inside her whispered, "This is not how life should be." From that day, Frances made a choice. She would not chase a comfortable life. She would chase justice. She walked through the poorest alleys of New York, taking notes, interviewing workers, studying the truth others ignored. She knew one reality. People were suffering, and no one with power seemed to care. Then came the night that changed everything. March 25, 1911. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. The smoke rose like a warning to the entire nation. Girls trapped on the upper floors hammered on locked doors. Flames climbed up the staircases. Fire ladders couldn't reach high enough. People watched helplessly as young women, daughters, sisters, dreamers, were forced to jump. It was chaos, despair, and pure human loss. Frances stood there, tears streaming down her face, knowing every second mattered, but she could save no one. And in her heartbreak, a voice inside her said, "If you can't save them now, save the ones who come after." From that moment forward, she refused to back down. She marched into government offices, faced rooms full of powerful men who didn't want change, and demanded safety laws, inspections, fire exits, and protections. She argued. She fought. She didn't blink. Her voice cut through every excuse. And finally, she won. New York passed over 30 new labor safety laws because she refused to be silent. But her mission didn't end there. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt called her to the White House and asked her to serve as Secretary of Labor, the first woman in American history to hold a cabinet position. She agreed, but only with a list. A minimum wage. A maximum 40-hour workweek. Child labor laws. Unemployment insurance. And Social Security, the promise that no elderly person would be abandoned. Roosevelt looked at her list and said, "Nothing like this has ever been done." Frances answered, "Then it's time to do it." Across the years that followed, America transformed. Workers gained rights. Families gained security. The old and vulnerable gained dignity. And the burning girls of the Triangle Factory finally found justice. Frances Perkins didn't seek fame. She sought fairness. She didn't fight for herself. She fought for a world where tragedies like that fire would never happen again. And because of her, millions of lives changed forever. This is her legacy. A woman who saw suffering, stepped into chaos, and used her voice not just to speak, but to rebuild a nation.